I wouldn't be shocked if they are completely tapped out space-wise and just can't keep receiving all these boxes of stuff that they're not going to get to for another year. The bottom line is this, folks. Who cares if PSA is slow? Right? They're slow as molasses right now, and people are still throwing money at them and sending cards to them. Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to the Parkside Merchant channel. I realize it's been a while since I've done an upload here, so I figured I would take some time today just to do a quick video, weigh in on some of the big news here this week. So obviously, as folks know, a lot of us got an email last night from Steve Sloan. For those of us on the East Coast, this came in like around 8 o'clock or something like that at night. And they're basically pressing pause at PSA on a lot of their economy level submissions. So for the cheap bulk stuff, they're basically saying, hold your horses. You can't send us any more of this stuff at those rates. We're not going to accept it for basically the next couple of months until July. And then we'll resume those pricing offerings essentially for their services. So I guess what they're trying to do basically is cut down on some of the bulk volume that they're getting. They alleged in the email that they sent that in a single day, or like in the span of a couple days, they got so many cards that it was almost like a month worth of submissions that came in just over the past several days, is what they allege. So frankly, I believe them, right? They're getting absolutely inundated with stuff right now. But I'll tell you, in full candor, folks, I was very surprised to see this. And if you recall from the video that I did about their price increases that happened just, I don't know, maybe 30 days ago or so, I was not surprised at all when they chose to increase their rates across the different service levels. That's obviously a business decision, right? It doubles their amount of revenue per submission if they double their prices, right? And so from a business move perspective, given that they're in a position of strength, they're kind of the preferred vendor out there for a lot of these grading and authentication or encapsulation services. That made sense. It was a pretty logical business move. It's very aggressive, obviously. It's very obnoxious for those of us that do a lot of PSA submissions, because now it costs more dollars to submit our cards. But I guess at the end of the day, it's not really surprising from a business perspective. These folks just got bought out by a PE firm or some kind of investment firm that's obviously looking to improve their performance, improve the books. Part of how you do that is just by driving up revenue quite a bit very quickly. Now, I will say I'm very surprised, though, by this recent announcement from Steve Sloan. If you think about it, right, from a business perspective, more business is more business, right? More submissions, more volume, it's more dollars. Every time you send a box out to PSA, you send it with a contract. It's basically the terms of what you've agreed to as far as the service level, right? You do your full detail of the cards, you put the valuation in there, and you give them a credit card number, essentially, for your submission. So every box that they get is basically revenue in waiting, right? It's dollars that they can immediately bill for as soon as they finish the job and get the cards graded and encapsulated. So this is very surprising to me that they would decide to just literally press pause on all these bulk cards and bulk submissions. Because at the end of the day, right, it's like even if they can't get to them, and they can't get to them, right, they're backlogged like almost a year for some of the service levels. Who cares, right? It's just money that's sitting in the warehouse, so to speak, that's ready to be accessed once they can kind of get their act together. So it's very surprising to me from a business perspective that they would suddenly just press pause, so to speak, and no longer allow inbound lower priced service submissions. So what this says to me is that PSA is actually hurting currently from an operational standpoint. And in my opinion, I have no evidence to suggest that this is true, but they often say at PSA that they treat every card like a mantle, right? Like a Mickey mantle. Every card you have, whatever it is, those Metal Raiders commons that you're sending for a registry set, or some modern baseball stuff that you're trying to flip on eBay that just got printed 6 months ago, whatever it is, right? They say that they treat it all like a Mickey Mantle card. And if that is true, which I do believe it is true to a certain degree, that the process is the same for the most part, no matter what you submit. They're going to do the same steps. They're going to treat it very carefully. Allegedly, they're going to be very careful with it and treat it nicely. What it means is, from a storage perspective, I think it's possible that these folks literally do not have space to continue to accommodate inbound submissions. And you might ask yourself, well, why don't they just go out and like buy more warehouse space, or like just use some of the 50,000 square feet of the office allegedly that they have now, that they talked about in the email, to just store cards. Yes, they could do this, but there's probably safety protocols and things that they have in place that guard their warehouse or guard their storage facilities. Because, I mean, there's tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars of stuff that comes in, maybe on a weekly basis or a daily basis. I don't even know how many cards they're getting on a daily basis, but they have to guard this stuff and protect it. And there's certain protocols to make sure these boxes don't get wet, that they don't get like compromised, and that there's not stuff that's just falling between the cracks, if you will. And I would wager, they're in an expensive part of California. Real estate isn't cheap, and they're probably thinking, look, we've got a certain amount of warehouse space that we have completely packed. I mean, it's probably filled to the gills with boxes. I think about the size of some of the boxes that I've sent for stuff. You multiply this by tens of thousands of people, you're talking a lot of space. And I wouldn't be shocked if the space constraint is one thing they're worried about. Nobody wants to lease more space if in a couple months they're not going to need it, right, after they can go through the backlog. And nobody wants to just start dumping boxes in the offices, like in the cubes, people's cubicles and things like that, if that's not what the space is intended for, because then it's more likely that something is going to get lost, somebody's going to steal something or walk off with it. So I wouldn't be shocked if they are completely tapped out space-wise and just can't keep receiving all these boxes of stuff that they're not going to get to for another year, right? So that's one kind of angle that I'm thinking about with all this, is like maybe these folks literally just ran out of space and they don't know where to put this stuff anymore. But within a couple of months, they're going to have plenty of space to accommodate it all. I think that's very probable and very likely. But that said, I am still very shocked by this. Like, why can't they just lease some more warehouse space, right? Get a part-time rental or whatever that they could just put an armed guard in front of, literally, and just pile up card boxes in there, right? The bottom line is this, folks. Who cares if PSA is slow, right? They're slow as molasses right now, and people are still throwing money at them and sending cards to them. So why do they care if it's going to just keep building a backlog? Who cares, right? It's just revenue in waiting. You may as well just keep letting the boxes pile up, and you get to them when you get to them, right? The worst thing people are going to do, worst case scenario, is you get a couple of people on the fringes that are going to give you a lot of beef on the contract, like a year or two down the road if it takes you forever to get to their stuff. And they're going to say, oh, they're going to hem and haw or whatever. But at the end of the day, they've already signed a contract or the purchase order or whatever for the grading and encapsulation services. So their hands are tied, right? As soon as you send that box off to PSA, it's basically the ball is on their side of the court. They can move as slow as they want with it. And I'm just surprised that from a business perspective, they decided to literally pump the brakes on all these submissions when it's guaranteed revenue, right? If the more stuff they have in their warehouse, the more visibility they're going to have into their next couple of quarters of revenue, depending on how big that pile is of stuff. So I don't know that I would have voted in favor of this as a business decision if I were somebody running PSA or calling the shots there. Doesn't really affect me too much as a collector. I already did a huge dump of stuff that I sent to them back in January and February, and even, well, I guess, yeah, February or so was the last kind of big round of stuff that I sent out. So I'm kind of all set at the present moment when it comes to the stuff I have there, which is hundreds of cards currently. So I can see why they're all worried about people sending hundreds and hundreds of cards, because I'm doing it. I know a lot of other people are doing it. So I could see how there's, in one single day of business, they're getting a month worth of submissions in terms of volume. So I guess from their standpoint, it kind of sucks, but it's just surprising from a business perspective. I'm honestly a little surprised this happened. I am very grateful that, Joe Orlando, Steve Sloan, the folks that sent the email yesterday, decided to extend the duration of our premium memberships. So for anybody that has a silver or gold or platinum level tier or whatever the heck they call it, you get that extended by 3 months so that you could access these pricing options presumably later this year after they kind of sort out the whole backlog situation. So it's not like they're fleecing us or giving us a bad deal on the membership subscription. So that's all, folks. Just wanted to give you some of my quick thoughts and reactions here on the big news from PSA yesterday. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down below in the comments, what did you think? Always interesting to hear folks' perspectives and different reactions to this stuff. Hope you enjoyed the content. Once again, this is the Parkside Merchants channel, and we'll see you next time.